Hello and welcome to the CISSP Certification course offered by Simplilearn. Certified Information Systems Security Professional, CISSP, is an autonomous information security certification governed by the International Information Systems Security Certification Consortium, or ISC². A CISSP is an information assurance professional who defines the architecture, design, management, and/or controls that assure the security of business environments. CISSP was the first credential in the field of information to meet the stringent requirements of ISO IEC Standard 17024. CISSP is an objective measure of excellence and a globally recognized standard of achievement. In June 2004, the CISSP became the first information security credential accredited by ANSI ISO IEC Standard 17024, 2003 accreditation. The objectives of this domain will be discussed in the following screen. After completing this domain, you will be able to define CISSP, explain about ISC², list down the different CISSP domains, understand the need for CISSP, identify the various CISSP certification requirements, describe CISSP exam. CISSP expands to Certified Information Systems Security Professional. The various features of CISSP are as follows. It is the first certification in information security which is globally recognized. The Certified Information Systems Security Professional, CISSP, is an information assurance professional who has demonstrated a globally recognized level of competence provided by a common body of knowledge that defines the architecture, design, management, risk, and controls that assure the security of business environments. CISSP is a gold standard and vendor-neutral IT security certification. The CISSP is governed by the International Information Systems Security Certification Consortium, or ISC². The CISSP curriculum covers subject matter in a variety of information security topics. The CISSP examination is based on the Common Body of Knowledge, or CBK. The CBK is taxonomy, a collection of topics relevant to information security professionals around the world. In the subsequent screen, we will discuss the International Information Systems Security Certification Consortium Incorporated in detail. ISC² stands for International Information Systems Security Certification Consortium Incorporated. Headquartered in the United States and with offices in London, Hong Kong, and Tokyo, the International Information Systems Security Certification Consortium Incorporated, ISC², is the global not-for-profit leader in educating and certifying information security professionals. They are recognized for gold standard certifications and excellent education programs. ISC² is comprised of a global team of top information security professionals and managed by professional staff who work together with regional and topical advisory boards to tackle any and all new information security issues with zeal. ISC² develops and maintains the ISC² CBK, or the Common Body of Knowledge, a compendium of information security topics. Let us look at the various domains in CISSP in the next screen. The CISSP domains are drawn from various information security topics within the ISC² Common Body of Knowledge, or CBK. It is updated annually, which reflects the up-to-date best practices worldwide in the domains. The CISSP CBK consists of the following 10 domains: Information Security Governance and Risk Management, Access Control, Telecommunications and Network Security, Security Architecture and Design, Physical or Environmental Security, Software Development Security, Cryptography, Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery Planning, Legal Regulations, Investigations and Compliance, and Operations Security. Information Security Governance and Risk Management is the identification of an organization's information assets and the development, documentation, and implementation of policies, standards, procedures, and guidelines. It covers security governance and policy, information classification ownership, contractual agreements and procurement processes, risk management concepts, personnel security, security education, training and awareness, and certification and accreditation. Access control is a collection of mechanisms that work together to create security architecture to protect the assets of the information system. It covers the fundamental concepts of access control, methodologies or techniques, effectiveness, and access control attacks. Telecommunications and network security discusses network structures, transmission methods, transport formats, and security measures used to provide availability, integrity, and confidentiality. It covers network architecture and design, communication channels, network components, and network attacks. Security architecture and design contains the concepts, principles, structures, and standards used to design, implement, monitor, and secure operating systems, equipment, networks, applications, and those controls used to enforce various levels of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It covers fundamental concepts of security models, capabilities of information systems, countermeasure principles, and vulnerabilities and threats. Physical or environmental security addresses the threats, vulnerabilities, and countermeasures that can be utilized to protect the enterprise's resources and sensitive information physically. It covers site facility design considerations, perimeter security, internal security, and facilities security. Software development security refers to the controls that are included within systems and applications, software, and the steps used in their development. It covers systems development lifecycle, or SDLC, application environment and security controls, and effectiveness of application security. Cryptography is the principles, means, and methods of disguising information to ensure its integrity, confidentiality, and authenticity. It covers encryption concepts, digital signatures, cryptanalytic attacks, public key infrastructure, or PKI, and information hiding alternatives. Business continuity and disaster recovery planning addresses the preservation of the business in the face of major disruptions to normal business operations. It covers business impact analysis, recovery strategy, disaster recovery process, and provide training. Legal, regulations, investigations, and compliance addresses computer crime laws and regulations, the investigative measures and techniques which can be used to determine if a crime has been committed, and the methods to gather evidence. It covers legal issues, investigations, forensic procedures, and compliance requirements or procedures. Operations security is used to identify the controls over hardware, media, and the operators with access privileges to any of these resources. It covers resource protection, incident response, attack prevention and response, and patch and vulnerability management. Let us discuss the benefits of the CISSP for professionals in the following screen. CISSP, or Certified Information Systems Security Professional, provides many benefits for professionals. The benefits of CISSP for professionals are: it helps in demonstrating a working knowledge of information security. It ensures that the professionals have commitment to profession. CISSP offers a career differentiator with enhanced credibility and marketability. CISSP provides the exclusive benefits of valuable resources such as peer networking and idea exchange for ISC Square members. CISSP indicates that certified information security professionals earn a worldwide average of 25% more than their non-certified counterparts, according to the Global Information Security Workforce Study. It helps to fulfill government and organization requirements for information security certification mandates. In the next screen, we will discuss how CISSP is beneficial for employers. CISSP adds its benefits not only to the professionals, but also to the employers. The benefits of CISSP for employers are as follows. CISSP improves the credibility and value of the employees in the organization to a higher rank as the ISC Square certifications are recognized internationally. It offers an increased credibility and goodwill for the organization when working with vendors and contractors. CISSP empowers the employees with a universal language, circumventing ambiguity with industry-accepted terms and practices. It validates the organization's commitment and years of experience gained in the industry. It requires the continuing professional education, or CPE credits, to ensure that CISSP professionals improve their skills. CISSP satisfies certification mandate requirements of the organization when dealing with service providers or subcontractors. In the following screen, we will discuss CISSP certification requirements. There are certain certification mandate requirements to become a CISSP professional. They are as follows. Obtain the required experience. Register for the examination. Complete the endorsement process. Maintain the CISSP certification. Audit. Obtain the required experience. 5 years of direct full-time professional security work experience in 2 or more of the 10 domains of the ISC Square CISSP Common Body of Knowledge, or CBK. 4 years of direct full-time professional security work experience in 2 or more of the 10 domains of the CISSP CBK with a 4-year college degree or additional credential from the ISC Square approved list. In case of no experience, the candidates can become an associate of ISC Square by successfully passing the CISSP exam. He has 6 years to earn the required experience to become a CISSP. To register for the examination. Register for the exam by visiting ISC Square official website. Click on the link for exam registration. Create a user account and then select Pearson VUE Testing Center for scheduling the exam. Appear for the exam on the scheduled date and pass the exam. Complete the endorsement process. The candidate is required to subscribe to the ISC Square Code of Ethics and has to get the application endorsed before the credential can be awarded. An endorsement form must be completed and signed by an ISC Square certified professional. The professional should be an active member and able to attest to your professional experience. The time limit for the endorsement to become certified is 9 months from the date of examination or become an associate of ISC Square. If the candidate does not become certified or an associate of ISC Square within 9 months from the date of examination, he or she is required to retake the exam in order to become certified. ISC Square can act as an endorser if the candidate is not able to find a certified individual to act as one. Please refer to the Endorsement Assistance Guidelines for additional information about the endorsement requirements. Maintain the CISSP certification. Recertification is required every 3 years. Recertification is accomplished through continuing professional education, or CPE. A total of 120 credits is required every 3 years. A minimum of 20 CPEs must be posted during each year of the 3-year certification cycle. CISSPs must also pay an annual maintenance fee of $85 per year. Audit. Candidates who pass the examination will be randomly selected and audited by ISC Square Services prior to the issuance of any certificate. Multiple certifications may result in a candidate being audited more than once. Under the following circumstances and with appropriate documentation, candidates are eligible to waive 1 year of professional experience. 1-year waiver of the professional experience requirement based on a candidate's education. Candidates can substitute a maximum of 1 year of direct full-time security professional work experience. The substitution is possible only if the candidate has a 4-year college degree or advanced degree in information security from the U.S. National Center of Academic Excellence in Information Security, CAEIAE, or regional equivalent. 1-year waiver of the professional experience requirement for holding an additional credential on the ISC Square approved list. The waiver is done if the candidates have the following valid experience in the information systems security-related work performed as a practitioner, auditor, consultant, investigator, or instructor that requires information security knowledge and involves the direct application of that knowledge. The 5 years of experience must be the equivalent of actual full-time information security work, not just information security responsibilities for a 5-year period. This requirement is cumulative, however, and may have been accrued over a much longer period. We will discuss CISSP examination in the next screen. The following are the important information about CISSP examination. Examination format. The CISSP examination consists of 250 multiple-choice questions with 4 choices each. 225 questions are graded, 25 are not for research purpose. There may be scenario-based questions, which may have more than one multiple-choice question associated with it. These questions will be specifically identified in the test booklet. Each of these exams contain 25 questions which are included for research purposes only. The research questions are not specifically identified. There is no penalty for guessing, so candidates should not leave any item unanswered. Examination duration. The maximum duration of the CISSP exam is 6 hours. Examination passing. Examination results will be based only on the questions scored in the examination. There are several versions of the examination. It is important that each candidate has an equal opportunity to pass the examination, no matter which version is administered. Subject matter experts, SMEs, have provided input for the difficulty level of all questions used in the examinations. That information is used to develop examination forms that have comparable difficulty levels. The passing grade required is a scale score of 700 out of a possible 1,000 points on the grading scale. Examination results. For computer-based testing or CBT-based exams, the result is displayed once the candidate submits his exam. For paper-based examination, results will normally be released via email within 4 to 6 weeks of the examination date. A comprehensive statistical and psychometric analysis of the score data is conducted prior to the release of scores. Policy for retaking the exam via CBT after an unsuccessful attempt. From the date of the candidate's first exam attempt, candidates must wait 30 days to retake the exam. From the date of the second attempt, candidates must wait 90 days to retake the exam. From the date of a fourth attempt, candidates must wait 180 days from the date of the third attempt to retake the exam. After this, the cycle is repeated. Examination fees. The exam fee is US $599 for both paper-based test and computer-based test. Examination type. From September 1, 2012, ISC Square offers only computer-based testing, or CBT, for all of its certification exams. For candidates located in areas outside of a 75-mile radius from an approved testing center, a case-by-case basis paper-based exam is offered. Hello and welcome to the Domain on Information Security Governance and Risk Management of the CISSP Certification course offered by Simplilearn. Information security governance and risk management involves the identification of an organization's information assets and the development, documentation, and implementation of policies, standards, procedures, and guidelines that ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Information security governance and risk management is one of the 10 domains of the Common Body of Knowledge, CBK, for the CISSP certification exam. This domain focuses on risk analysis and mitigation. It also details security governance, or the organizational structure required for a successful information security program. The objectives of this domain will be listed in the following screen. After completing this domain, you will be able to recognize the importance of information security management, recognize the importance of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which are the foundation for information security, list the types of information classification, describe security policy implementation, describe information risk analysis and risk management, define the process of managing personnel security and managing security functions. Kevin Butler is a security administrator in the Network Firewalls division at Nutri Worldwide, Inc. He is preparing for his CISSP exam. He started his preparation by reading a historical case of a competitor of Nutri Worldwide, Inc. This competitor company had failed to understand the importance of information security. The company had planned their business continuity strategy without continuous involvement of IT. only the IT security inputs were taken without the team playing an active role. The business continuity planning, or BCP, was weak in the areas of IT security. When the headquarters was hit by a tornado, there was a huge information leak since data protection measures at the time of a natural disaster were not well planned for. The IT tried their best to prevent this. The company had to face losses that led them to filing for bankruptcy within a few years. Corner, Newman, and Hollyman quoted that information security is often treated solely as a technology issue when it should also be treated as a governance issue. Reading this case study helped Kevin understand the importance of information security governance and risk management. Let us now look at the first topic, goals, mission, and objectives of organization. In order to protect an organization's assets, it is important to understand what the organization does and what it wants to achieve. In other words, it is necessary to identify organizational goals, mission, and objectives. In this topic, we will describe the role and importance of goals, mission, and objectives, and also discuss how to align information security with the goals, the mission, and the objectives of an organization. Let us begin with the goals, mission, and objectives of an organization. Goals, mission, and objectives are statements that define what the organization desires to achieve. They also indicate how the organization intends to achieve them. These statements help organizations create long-term and short-term strategies. Once goals, mission, and objectives have been identified, it becomes easier to align information security to organizational goals and protect organizational assets. Information security can be aligned with organizational goals, mission, and objectives by reducing the risk posed by information security threats and with senior management support. As a security professional in an organization, you will be directly responsible for minimizing and managing risk through appropriate activities and controls. You must have a thorough knowledge of the organization's IT assets as well as its goals, mission, and objectives. Influencing an organization's core activities requires the support of senior management. This support comes in the form of priorities and resources that permit security professionals to be closely involved with key activities. As an organization, NutriWorld Inc. would like to focus on improving the security of communication channels in this financial year. To achieve this goal, the General Manager of IT Security, Hilda Jacob, announced in her recent address to the team that all security administrators and IT analysts in the IT Security Division need to complete the CISSP Certification. Kevin Butler is a security administrator in the Network Firewalls Division at Nutri Worldwide. He is preparing for his CISSP exam. He has understood the importance of mission, goals, and objectives of organization and the importance of aligning its security to it. He read this statement on the company website. Nutri Worldwide will pursue and foster opportunities for growth and enrichment for its employees and stakeholders, with the customer being the focal point. Is this statement a mission, goal, or objective statement? This is a mission statement. Mission statement is a statement of the purpose of an organization, company, or person and its reason for existence. It guides the actions of the company, tells its overall goal, provides a path, and guides management in decision-making. Let us proceed to the next topic, information security management. This topic, information security management, describes the controls an organization implements to manage risk. In this topic, we will look at some important definitions, learn about information security governance, and describe security controls, organizational processes, and service-level agreements. We will also discuss how to manage third-party governance and learn about privacy requirements and compliance. Governance ensures that security strategies are aligned with business objectives and are consistent with regulations. The IT Governance Institute defines security governance as security governance is the set of responsibilities and practices exercised by the board and executive management with the goal of providing strategic direction, ensuring that objectives are achieved, ascertaining that risks are managed appropriately, and verifying that the enterprise's resources are used responsibly. In other words, strategy, objectives, and risks are developed and executed in a top-down manner. In a governance model, The executive management is in control of the activities intended to protect organizational assets from threats. Governance is intended to guarantee that appropriate information security activities are being performed to ensure that risks are reduced and information security investments are appropriately directed. It also ensures that the executive management has visibility of the program and improving the effectiveness of the program. We will learn about security controls in the following screen. Security controls are measures taken to safeguard an information system from attacks against the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the information system. The common term of confidentiality, integrity, and availability is CIA. Note that the terms safeguard and countermeasure are sometimes used as synonyms for security control. Security controls are selected and applied based on a risk assessment of the information system. The risk assessment process identifies system threats and vulnerabilities, and then security controls are selected to reduce or mitigate the risk. There are three types of security controls. They are administrative security controls, technical security controls, and physical security controls. Let us look at each type in the following screen. Service Level Agreements, or SLA, is a formally defined level of service provided by an organization. Within the context of security management, SLAs may be defined for many activities, including security incident response. A security team may be required to mobilize within a stipulated period of time when a security incident has been called. Security alert delivery. Security alerts, which may be bulletins of threats or vulnerabilities, may need to be delivered to recipients within a stipulated period of time. Security investigation. A security investigator may be required to respond to a call for assistance within a stipulated period of time. Policy and procedure review. A security team may be required to periodically review policies, procedures, and other documents. SLAs can be defined for other tactical activities performed by security management and staff. The next screen will focus on managing third-party governance. Outsourcing is the subcontracting of a business process to a third-party company. Organizations outsource different functions for many reasons, including redirecting energy on the organization's core competencies and controlling the efficient use of capital and other resources. There are some information security risks associated with the outsourcing of business process to third parties, including loss of control of confidential information, accountability, and compliance. Let us look at each of these now. Loss of control of confidential information. An organization will have to equip the outsourcer with the information required to perform its functions efficiently. Since this information is now out of the organization's direct control, protection of that information is now entirely dependent upon the outsourcer's actions. Accountability. While the organization has outsourced functions to a third party and is at the complete mercy of the third party's integrity, the organization is still completely accountable for the actions performed by the outsourcer. Compliance. The risks identified can also result in compliance risks. Regulators hold outsourcers accountable and not the third party for ensuring compliance. Outsourcing IT support, desktop support, and infrastructure is relatively common, and an increasing number of organizations are investing in outsourcing e-commerce systems, data center hosting, and software and application development. The security of the outsourced data is of prime importance to the organizations. Secure outsourcing can be achieved by periodic on-site assessments, document exchange and document reviews, and policy and process reviews. Let us look at each of these now. On-site assessment of IT governance includes a review of all the formal and ad hoc IT governance mechanisms and interviews of key business and IT personnel. Document exchange and document review. A proper document management should be in place so as to secure and control the documentation flow to the third party. Users must also be able to regulate the access to documents and ensure that others can't alter them. A regular policy and process review will help the organization create an efficient and secure environment. In the next screen, we will learn about the privacy requirements and compliance. Outsourcing is using a third party to provide information technology support services that were previously performed in-house. Offshoring is outsourcing to another country. Offshoring can increase privacy and regulatory issues. Let us look at an example to understand this. For a U.S. medical transcription organization's data offshored to India, there is no Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act (HIPAA) certification, which is the major regulation covering healthcare data in the United States. A thorough and accurate risk analysis must be performed before outsourcing or offshoring sensitive data. If the data will reside in another country, it is important to ensure that the laws and regulations governing it are thoroughly followed, even beyond the country's jurisdiction. A good contract ensures that regulations and laws governing privacy are followed, even beyond the country's jurisdiction. In the example we looked at already, the Indian company to which the U.S. Medical Transcription Organization's data was offshored to can agree to follow HIPAA via contract. As part of the preparation for the CISSP exam, Kevin is studying the importance of the information security governance and management. While doing so, he lists out the distinguishing points about governance and management to ensure he understands the difference between the two. Governance is associated with providing an oversight, enacting policies, establishing accountability, resources planning, and strategic planning. Management, on the other hand, involves implementation, enforcement of policies, handling responsibilities, resource planning, and project planning. Based on his observations, Kevin concluded that doing the right thing is management and doing things right is governance. Is this statement true? It is not true. The correct statement would be, doing the right thing is governance, and doing things right is management. Let us now look at the next topic, the Big Three, CIA. The core principles of information security are confidentiality, integrity, and availability, often called as CIA. All other concepts and activities in information security are based on these principles. In this topic, we will look at the role and importance of CIA in information security management. We will also discuss confidentiality, integrity, and availability in detail. Let us understand the role and importance of CIA in information security management. The three components of the CIA triangle are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. They have served as the industry standard for computer security since the time of the first mainframes. These three concepts are a great foundation for the dynamic world of information technology. They are responsible for the development of several new key components in the expanded CIA triangle. Organizations look up to these basic components as the building blocks to information security. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability are the foundation for information security. CIA forms the basis on which the information security is built. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability work together to provide assurance that systems and data remain secure. Every part of CIA triad is equally important. Depending on the data and IT resource, different prioritization of the three will be required. In the next screen, we will learn about confidentiality. The principle of confidentiality asserts that information and functions can be accessed only by authorized parties. Private information about citizens has resulted in the proliferation of information systems operated by both government and industry. Typically, a personal profile containing many items of basic information are established when an individual begins a relationship with an organization. This relationship is started when a person makes a purchase, registers to vote, renews a driver's license, pays taxes, or consults a physician. Even if the purpose or the duration of the relationship is brief, often the information will remain on the organization's information systems for an extended period, often for many years. Individuals expect that their confidential information will not be disclosed to unauthorized parties and that it will be properly protected. However, some organizations may not handle the information properly, resulting in an unauthorized disclosure. This could result in an attempted identity theft or financial fraud carried out against the persons whose information was compromised. Military secrets, which are highly confidential information, can be taken as an example here. Military secrets can be accessed only by authorized personnel. Threats to confidentiality are from many sources. Hackers and masqueraders compromise the confidentiality of the data. Any unauthorized user activity can also compromise the confidentiality of information. Other threats to confidentiality are unprotected downloaded files, unprotected networks, and unauthorized programs like Trojan horses and viruses. Social engineering attack, which uses social skills to obtain information, is another threat. The next screen will focus on integrity. The principle of integrity asserts that information and functions can be added, altered, or removed only by authorized people and means. Integrity is achieved through a role-based access control, which is the generic name for a mechanism that controls the actions performed by individuals. Information may be stored in a database of tables consisting of tables, rows, and fields. The concept of integrity governs which individuals are able to modify which tables, rows, and fields in the database. Incorrect data entered by the user into a database can be taken as an example here. In data security, the need for integrity encompasses software, systems, and the people who design, build, and operate them. Software must operate properly, particularly when a program is accessing and modifying data. Systems must be properly configured so that the data that resides on them is managed and updated correctly. The people who design, build, and operate software and systems must be properly trained on the technologies that they are using, and they must adhere to a code of professional ethics that guides their behavior and decision-making. Similar to the confidentiality, the threats to integrity come from hackers, masqueraders, unauthorized user activity, unprotected downloaded files, networks, and unauthorized programs like Trojan horses and viruses. Authorized users can also corrupt the data and programs accidentally or intentionally. Next, we will discuss availability in detail. The principle of availability asserts that systems, functions, and data must be available on demand according to agreed-upon parameters based on levels of service. In other words, systems should be available and in function. A good example for availability would be network load balancing. Availability is multifaceted and involves separate safeguards and mechanisms to ensure that systems and data are available when needed. These safeguards range from firewalls and antivirus software to resilient architectures for disaster recovery planning. Availability covers nearly all the aspects of data security that directly or indirectly protects a system from any harm. Threats to availability are denial of service and distributed denial of service attacks, natural disasters like fires, floods, storms, or earthquakes. Availability can also be disturbed by human actions like bombs or strikes. Let us proceed to the next topic, information classification. Information of different types must be secured in different ways. Therefore, a classification system is needed whereby the information is classified, a policy is laid down on how to handle information according to its class, and security mechanisms are enforced on systems' approach to handling the information. In this topic, we will look at the need for information classification, its objectives, government or military sector classification, commercial or private sector classification, information classification criteria, and the layers of responsibility. This screen describes the need for information classification. There are several good reasons to classify information. Not all data has the same value to an organization. Some data is valuable to the people who take strategic decisions because it aids them in taking long-term or short-term business direction decisions. Some data, such as trade secrets, formulas, and new product information, is so valuable that its loss could create a significant problem for the enterprise and the marketplace. This could create public embarrassment by causing a lack of credibility. For these reasons, it is obvious that information classification has a higher enterprise-level benefit. Information can have an impact on a business globally, apart from the business unit or line operation levels. Its primary purpose is to enhance confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and to minimize the risk to the information. In addition, by focusing the protection mechanisms and controls on the information areas that need it the most, you achieve an efficient cost-to-benefit ratio. Cost-to-benefit ratio aims at generating maximum benefits from the available resources and budget. The objectives of information classification are discussed in this screen. The objective of an information classification scheme varies from sector to sector. In general, the information classification is done to minimize risks on sensitive information. Information classification has the longest history in the government or military sectors. In these sectors, information classification is used primarily to prevent the unauthorized disclosure of information and the resultant failure of confidentiality. A commercial or private sector company might wish to employ classification to maintain a competitive edge in a tough marketplace. There might also be other sound legal reasons for a company to employ information classification, such as to minimize liability or to protect valuable business information. Information classification can also be employed to comply with privacy laws or to enable regulatory compliance. The government or military sector classification is described in this screen. The information classification scheme followed by the government or military sector has 5 levels: top secret, secret, confidential, sensitive but unclassified or SBU, and unclassified. Top secret is the highest level of information classification. The unauthorized disclosure of top secret information will cause exceptionally severe damage to the country's national security. The next level is secret. This is the information designated to be of a secret nature. The unauthorized disclosure of this information could cause some damage to the country's national security. The third level is confidential. This is the information designed to be of a confidential nature. The unauthorized disclosure of this information may cause damage to the country's national security. This level applies to the documents labeled between sensitive but unclassified and secret in sensitivity. The fourth level is sensitive but unclassified. This is the information designated as a minor secret that may not create serious damage to the country's national security if disclosed. However, such material would cause undesirable effects if they are available in public. The lowest level is unclassified. This is the information designated as neither sensitive nor classified. The public release of this information does not violate the confidentiality of a country's national security. We will discuss commercial or private sector classification in this screen. The information classification scheme followed by the commercial or private establishments has 4 levels: confidential, private, sensitive, and public. The highest level is confidential. This classification applies to the sensitive business information that is intended strictly for use within the organization. The unauthorized disclosure of such information can seriously and adversely affect the organization, its stockholders, business partners, or customers. For example, information about new product development, trade secrets, and merger negotiations is considered confidential. The next level is private. This classification applies to the personal information that is intended for use within the organization. The unauthorized disclosure of such information can seriously and adversely affect the organization or its employees. For example, medical information and salary levels are considered private. The third level is sensitive. Information that requires a higher level of classification than normal data can be termed as sensitive. Unauthorized disclosure of this information could affect the company. This information is protected from a loss of confidentiality as well as from a loss of integrity due to an unauthorized alteration. This information requires a higher than normal assurance of accuracy and completeness. The lowest level is public. This is similar to unclassified information. All of a company's information that does not fit into any of the other categories can be considered public. While its unauthorized disclosure may be against policy, it is not expected to affect the organization, its employees, or its customers, neither seriously nor adversely. Information classification criteria will be discussed in this screen. Once the scheme is decided upon, the government agency or the company must develop the criteria to decide what information goes into which classification. As seen in the image, several criteria may be used to determine the classification of an information object like conditions, elements, limitations, and procedures. Classification can be decided based on certain conditions which the information satisfies, such as value, age, useful life, and personal associations. Value is the commonly used criteria for classifying the data in private sector. If the information is valuable to an organization or its competitors, it needs to be classified. Age states that the classification of information might be lowered if the information's value decreases over time. Useful life states that if the information has been made obsolete due to new information, substantial changes in the company, or other reasons, the information can often be declassified. If information is personally associated with specific individuals or is addressed by a privacy law, it might need to be classified. For example, investigative information that reveals informant names might need to remain classified. While implementing information classification, you will need to consider and implement appropriate practices related to its authorization, custody, reproduction, logging, labeling, filing, etc. You must also take into account certain limitations like ability of expert, ethics of custodian, and incompatible activities of the administrator while classifying the information. You also need to specify certain procedures like controlling the use of information and labeling of information. Kevin has understood the importance of information, its criticality to a company, and importance of assigning a value to it. Network Firewalls Division has a lot of information that is created and maintained. However, Kevin recognizes not all the information is critical. He would like to do a high-level classification on the information accessible to him. What are the different information classification levels Kevin would need to use? The information classification levels for any commercial organization are confidential, private, sensitive, and public. Let us proceed to the next topic, security policy implementation. Security policies are the foundation for sound security implementation. Often, organizations will implement technical security solutions without first creating this foundation of policies, standards, guidelines, and procedures, thus unintentionally creating unfocused and ineffective security controls. In this topic, we will discuss the security policies and its types. We will also look at security policy implementation, policy chart, along with the standards, guidelines, procedures, and baselines. Security policy can be defined as an overall general statement produced by senior management or a selected policy board or committee that dictates the role of security within the organization. Building a good security policy lays foundation for the successful implementation of security-related projects in the future. This is an important measure to reduce the risk of unacceptable use of any of the company's information resources. The first step towards enhancing a company's security is the introduction of a precise yet enforceable security policy, informing staff on the various aspects of their responsibilities, general use of company resources, and explaining how to handle sensitive information. The policy will also describe the meaning of acceptable use, as well as list prohibited activities. An effective policy should be generic, non-technical, and easily understood by everyone. It should provide a mission statement for security and should represent the business objectives. It should be developed to integrate security into all business functions and processes. As the company changes over a period, the security policy should be reviewed and modified accordingly. Like any other important document, it is very essential that it should be dated and version controlled. Finally, the policy should be forward-thinking, which means it should support vision and mission of the organization. Types of security policies will be covered in the next screen. A strategic goal can be viewed as the ultimate endpoint, while tactical goals are the steps necessary to achieve it. General security policies are derived from laws, regulations, and requirements. The functional implementation policies are subsets of general organizational policy. A policy is implemented using standards, guidelines, procedures, and baselines. As shown in the flowchart, standards, guidelines, procedures, and baselines are the tactical tools used to achieve and support the directives in the security policy, which is considered the strategic goal. As you can see from the policy hierarchy chart and figure, policies are considered the first and highest level of documentation, from which the lower level elements of standards, procedures, baselines, and guidelines flow. However, this order does not mean that the policies are more important than the lower elements. These higher level policies, which are the general policies and statements, should be created first in the process for strategic reasons and then the tactical elements can follow. We will discuss these tactical tools in the next screen. Kevin was examining a security policy of Nutri Worldwide Inc. that was introduced a decade ago and turned out to be a bad example. This policy was withdrawn within a month after its launch. During his examination of the policy, he identified that it covered elements of a good security policy like purpose, objective, responsibilities, compliance, and review. Which important element of the policy is missing from the list Kevin identified? Scope is the missing element in the policy. Let us proceed to the next topic, information risk management. Information risk management focuses on finding the level of risk associated with a given activity or asset and how to handle it. In this topic, we will look at the security definitions and discuss information risk management, or IRM, in detail. Information risk management, or IRM, is the process of identifying and assessing the risk, reducing it to an acceptable level, and implementing the right mechanisms to maintain that level. Risk management process involves establishing the context, identifying the risks, analyzing the risks, evaluating the risks, and finally treating the risks. The risk management process minimizes the impact of threats realized and provides a foundation for effective management decision-making. This process can be understood better if you answer the following questions. What could happen? That is, the threat event. If it happened, how bad could it be? That is, the threat impact. How often could it happen? That is, the threat frequency. Is it annualized? How certain are the answers to the first three questions? That is, recognition of the uncertainty. What can be done? That is, risk mitigation. How much will it cost? That is, the annualized cost. Is it cost effective? That is, cost-benefit analysis. While studying the information risk management process, Kevin made notes on the security definitions based on examples from his day-to-day work as follows. Asset can be servers and systems of company. A good example he identified for vulnerability is a weak rule set for the firewall. A good example he identified for a threat is hacking of network or servers. A good example he identified for a threat agent is a hacker. A good example he identified for a risk is the loss of critical organization data. A good example he identified for exposure is an instance of 25% loss of data which is unencrypted. Based on the definitions, he would like to define the purpose and role of the risk management process. What will the risk management process achieve? It helps maintain the identified risks to an acceptable level. While studying the information risk management process, Kevin made notes on the security definitions based on examples from his day-to-day work as follows. Asset can be servers and systems of company. A good example he identified for vulnerability is a weak rule set for the firewall. A good example he identified for a threat is hacking of network or servers. A good example he identified for a threat agent is a hacker. A good example he identified for a risk is the loss of critical organization data. A good example he identified for exposure is an instance of 25% loss of data which is unencrypted. Based on the definitions, he would like to define the purpose and role of the risk management process. What will the risk management process achieve? It helps maintain the identified risks to an acceptable level. Let us move on to the next topic, risk analysis. Risk analysis is a method of identifying vulnerabilities and threats and assessing the possible damage to determine where to implement security safeguards. In this topic, we will learn about risk analysis and discuss its goals. We will also look at the risk analysis team, steps for risk analysis, information and assets valuation, and types of risk analysis. Then, we will take a look at the steps for quantitative risk analysis and understand qualitative risk analysis with examples. We will also compare quantitative and qualitative risk analysis. Finally, we will learn about countermeasure selection and handling risk. Let us begin with risk analysis in this screen. Risk analysis can be defined as the analysis of the probability and consequences of each known risk. Some of the significant roles of risk analysis are discussed here. Risk analysis helps in prioritizing the organizational risks and calculates the cost of safeguards to protect against those risks. It provides a cost-benefit comparison between the cost of safeguards and the potential cost of loss. A safeguard is implemented only when the cost of loss exceeds the cost of safeguard. It helps in identifying and prioritizing the risk factors with greater impact. The priority level of the risk is determined by combining estimates of probability and consequences. Risk analysis also helps in integrating the security program objectives with the organization's business objectives and requirements. It also helps the company to draft a suitable budget for a security program and its essential security components. The next screen will focus on goals of risk analysis. The goals of risk analysis are discussed in detail in this screen. Risk analysis mainly has 4 goals. It helps the organization in identifying its assets and their values. It helps in identifying the vulnerabilities and threats. It helps to measure the possibility and impact of these latent threats. It helps in providing an economic balance between the cost of the countermeasure and the impact of the threat. For effective risk analysis, an organization needs to form a risk analysis team. A risk analysis team consists of individuals from many or all departments. It is to ensure that all the threats are identified and addressed. The team members may be part of management, application programmers, IT staff, systems integrators, operational managers, and any key personnel from key areas of the organization. The Information Risk Management Team Leader, or Risk Manager, acts as a liaison between the team and executive management. Further, Risk Management Team may consist of Risk Manager, System or Network Administrator, System Business Owner, System Technical Owner, Executive Sponsor, Information Security Officer. The next screen focuses on steps for risk analysis. To perform risk analysis, a company first decides what assets must be protected and to what extent. This step is called as Asset and Information Value Assignment. It also indicates the amount of money that can go towards protecting specific assets. Next, it must evaluate the functionality of the available safeguards and determine which ones would be most beneficial for the environment. This step is called as Risk Analysis and Assessment. Finally, the company needs to appraise and compare the cost of the safeguards. These steps and the resulting information enable management to make the most intelligent and informed decisions about selecting and purchasing countermeasures. This step is called as countermeasure selection and implementation. Let us proceed to the next screen to understand information and assets valuation. Understanding the value of an asset is the first step to understand what security mechanisms should be put in place and what funds should go towards protecting it. Assets may be tangible, like computers, facilities, supplies, or it can be intangible, like reputation, data, and intellectual property. It is usually harder to quantify the values of intangible assets, which may change over time. The value of an asset should reflect on all the identifiable costs that would arise if there were an actual impairment of the asset. The following issues should be considered when assigning values to assets. Cost to acquire or develop the asset. Cost to maintain and protect the asset. Value of the asset to owners and users. Value of the asset to adversaries. Value of intellectual property that went into developing the information. Price others are willing to pay for the asset. Cost to replace the asset if lost or damaged. Operational and production activities that are affected if the asset is unavailable. Liability issues if the asset is compromised. Usefulness and role of the asset in the organization. Let us look at the types of risk analysis in the following screen. There are 2 types of approaches to risk analysis: quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative analysis uses risk calculations that attempt to predict the level of monetary losses and the percentage of chance for each type of threat. Quantitative is more objective. Qualitative analysis does not use calculations, but is more situation and scenario-based. Qualitative is more subjective. Qualitative analysis does not assign numbers and monetary values to components and losses. Instead, Qualitative methods walk through different scenarios of risk possibilities and rank the seriousness of the threats and the validity of different possible countermeasures based on opinions. Let's go through the steps to perform quantitative risk analysis in this screen. Quantitative risk analysis requires certain parameters to be calculated for estimating risk. These parameters include SLE, EF, ARO, and ALE. Single loss expectancy, or SLE, is a dollar amount that is assigned to a single event that represents the company's potential loss amount if a specific threat were to take place. It represents an organization's loss from a single threat and is derived from the following formula. Single loss expectancy equals asset value in dollars multiplied by exposure factor in percentage, where exposure factor, or EF, represents the percentage of loss that a realized threat could have on a certain asset. SLE is primarily defined to create the annualized loss expectancy, ALE. It is occasionally used by itself to describe a disastrous event for a business impact assessment, BIA. Business impact analysis, BIA, predicts the consequences of disruption of a business function and/or a business process. Annualized loss expectancy, or ALE, is the annually expected financial loss to an organization from a threat. The ALE value dictates if the company has to bring in controls or safeguards to protect the asset from the threat. ALE can be derived from the following formula. Annualized loss expectancy equals single loss expectancy multiplied by annualized rate of occurrence, where annualized rate of occurrence, or ARO, is the value that represents the estimated frequency of a specific threat taking place within the time frame of 1 year. Let us consider an example of fire destroying a server with the data encrypted and asset value of $6,000. The exposure factor is 50% and the chances of fire in 1 year is 10%, which is the annualized rate of occurrence. Using the given conditions, first, let us calculate the single loss expectancy. SLE equals $6,000 multiplied by 50%, which is $3,000. Now, let us calculate the annual loss expectancy. ALE equals 10% multiplied by $3,000, which is $300. Let us learn about qualitative risk analysis in this screen. Qualitative analysis techniques include judgment, best practices, intuition, and experience. Examples of qualitative techniques to gather data are Delphi, brainstorming, storyboarding, focus groups, surveys, questionnaires, checklists, one-on-one meetings, and interviews. The risk analysis team will determine the best technique for the threats that need to be assessed, as well as the culture of the company and individuals involved with the analysis. The table on the screen lists a few threats, the probability, impact, and the corresponding countermeasures put into place. The threat probability and the impact are given different ratings, like high, medium, and low, based on some assumptions. For example, although the probability of fire is low, when it occurs, it has a high impact on the organization. Countermeasure for this threat is a fire extinguisher. Some more examples are given in the table. In the following screen, let us look at some examples of qualitative analysis. Delphi technique is the most important qualitative technique from the point of view of the exam. It is a group decision method used to ensure that each member gives an honest opinion of what he or she thinks the result of a particular threat will be. This avoids a group of individuals feeling pressured to go along with others' thought processes and enables them to participate in an independent and anonymous way. Delphi technique has two methods, consensus Delphi and modified Delphi method. The first method is the consensus Delphi method, in which experts help to identify the highest priority security issues and corresponding countermeasures. This is a systematic interactive forecasting method based on independent inputs of selected experts. The other method is modified Delphi method, which is a silent form of brainstorming in which the participants develop ideas individually and silently with no group interaction. The ideas are submitted to a group of decision makers for consideration and action. The risk analysis team, management, risk analysis tools, and culture of the company will dictate which approach, whether quantitative or qualitative risk analysis, will be used. The goal of both approaches is to estimate a company's real risk and to rank the severity of the threats, so the correct countermeasures can be put into place within a practical budget. Each method has its merits and demerits, some of which are outlined in the given table for the purpose of comparison. A security countermeasure, also called a safeguard, must make good business sense. That is, it is cost-effective and its benefit is greater than its cost. This requires another type of analysis called a cost-benefit analysis. A commonly used cost-benefit calculation for a given safeguard is ALE before implementing safeguard minus ALE after implementing safeguard minus annual cost of safeguard equals value of safeguard to the company. For example, if the ALE of the threat of a fire bringing down a web server is $10,000 prior to implementing the suggested safeguard, and the ALE is $2,000 after implementing the safeguard, while the annual cost of maintenance and operation of the safeguard is $500, then the value of this safeguard to the company is $7,500 each year. Other factors that influence the selection of countermeasure or safeguard are TCO and ROI. Total cost of ownership, or TCO, is the total cost for a mitigating safeguard. Return on investment, or ROI, is the amount of money saved by implementing a safeguard. The risk analyst may not always get exact estimates, like in the case of an ROI due to lack of information and data. This may lead to uncertainty. In risk analysis, uncertainty refers to the degree to which you lack confidence in an estimate. This is expressed as a percentage from 0 to 100%. If you have a 25% confidence level in something, it could be said that you have a 75% uncertainty level. Capturing the degree of uncertainty when carrying out a risk analysis is important because it indicates the level of confidence the team and management should have in the resulting figures. Risk can be treated in 4 basic ways: transfer it, reject it, reduce it, or accept it. Assigning or transferring the potential cost of a loss due to risk to another party, such as an insurance company, is called risk transference. If a company decides to terminate the activity that is foreseen as a risk, it is known as risk avoidance. Taking measures to alter or improve the risk position of an asset throughout the company is risk reduction. Accepting the level of loss that will occur and absorbing the loss is known as risk acceptance. The reason a company implements countermeasure is to reduce its overall risk to an acceptable level. However, there is always some amount of risk left over in any environment. This is known as residual risk. Residual risk is different from total risk. Total risk is the risk a company faces if it chooses not to implement any type of safeguard. A company may choose to accept total risk if the results of cost-benefit analysis indicate this is the best course of action. There is an important difference between total risk and residual risk and which type of risk a company is willing to accept. The following are the conceptual formulas to calculate total risk and residual risk. Total risk equals threats multiplied by vulnerabilities multiplied by asset value. Residual risk can be derived using 2 formulas. One is residual risk equals total risk multiplied by control gaps, where a control gap is the protection that a countermeasure cannot provide. The second formula is residual risk equals total risk minus countermeasures. Kevin is assigned the task of providing security solution for finance department of the organization. Since he had a very limited knowledge of financial data, he had to take help of George Carter, EVP Finance, to put proper controls for the sensitive financial data. He suggested that a risk analysis team should be formed with the functional heads of the organization. This team will then carry out the task of information asset valuation, identifying vulnerabilities and threats, assessing the risks, and recommendations for risk mitigation. The team will prepare a report which is then presented to the senior management for review and approval. What are the different types of asset that Kevin asked this team to classify into? all assets were asked to be classified into tangible and intangible assets. Let us proceed to the next topic, managing personnel security. In this topic, we will discuss the importance of managing personnel security. We will look at the hiring practices and employee termination procedures. We will also learn about the vendor, contractors, and consultant controls and discuss some of the best work practices. The insider threat is one of the top information security risks faced by the organizations. The people inside the organization need access to the data and resources to complete their assigned work. They have the potential to misuse these access privileges. Hence, managing personnel security becomes an imperative task to any organization. It is important to protect sensitive information by securely managing the life cycle of employment, that is, pre-employment, during employment, and post-employment phases. Hiring qualified and trustworthy individuals always depends upon implementing and adhering to personnel policies. Screen out those individuals whose past actions may indicate undesirable behavior in the current organization. In the next screen, we will discuss the concept of managing personnel security. We will now discuss the controls for vendors, contractors, and consultants. These controls mostly act as preventative controls. Vendors and temporary employees should be given limited access to the information. A non-disclosure agreement should be signed. Also, a thorough background checks should be done. Access control should be properly implemented. Contractors should always be escorted within the organization. A proper supervision should be carried out. Background checks and access control should be strictly implemented. Consultants must be escorted whenever they visit your facility. A non-disclosure agreement should be signed. A thorough pre-screening and background checks should be done. Access control should be properly implemented. Kevin recalled the process followed by Nutri Worldwide while he was hired. When Kevin applied for the job, the company had asked for a detailed resume. He had to pass through 3 rigorous rounds of interviews in which his technical skills, educational background, criminal history, and his ability to work in a team were checked. He was later offered the job, and on the day of joining, he had to sign non-disclosure agreement since he was about to handle some critical infrastructure of the company. Kevin now understands the importance of employee hiring and termination policies and how it directly affects the information security posture of any organization. Hiring practices employed at the time Kevin was hired by Nutri Worldwide Inc. act as which type of control? They are preventive type controls. Some of the best work practices are described in this screen. Separation of duties prescribes that multiple people are required to complete critical or sensitive transactions. The goal of separation of duties is to ensure that in order for someone to be able to abuse access to sensitive data or transactions, that person must convince another party to act in mutual agreement. Job rotation is good for cross-training and also reduces the likelihood that employees will collude for personal gain. It provides an organization with the means to help mitigate the risk associated with any one individual having too many privileges. Rotation of duties simply requires that one person does not perform critical functions or responsibilities without interruption. Mandatory vacations can be used to detect or prevent irregularities that violate policy and practices. It requires employees to be away from work to help reveal fraudulent or suspicious behavior. The sheer knowledge that mandatory leave is a possibility might deter some individuals from engaging in fraudulent behavior in the first place because of the increased likelihood of getting caught. Split knowledge so that one individual only has enough knowledge to perform a part of a task. It focuses on the uniqueness of separate objects that must be joined together. Applying dual control wherein 2 or more people must be available and active to perform an action. Dual control has to do with forcing the collusion of at least 2 or more persons to combine their split knowledge to gain access to an asset. Both split knowledge and dual control complement each other and are necessary functions that implement the segregation of duties in high-integrity cryptographic environments. Let us proceed to the next topic, security awareness training. The management's directives pertaining to security are captured in the security policy, and the standards, procedures, and guidelines are developed to support these directives. This topic focuses on the importance of security awareness training, awareness, training and education, and also on the security awareness training implementation. Let us discuss the importance of security awareness training in this screen. Security awareness training is an essential activity which should be carried out by the organization. The importance of security awareness training includes: security awareness training helps the organization understand the importance of security to the company as a whole and to each individual. It helps users understand the expected responsibilities and acceptable behaviors and non-compliance consequences from an individual's perspective. The security awareness training is performed to modify employees' behavior and attitude towards security. Security awareness training brings improvement in the overall security of the organization. It helps the organization to implement controls in a better way. In the next screen, we will learn about security awareness training, awareness, training, and education in detail. To achieve the desired results of the security program, the organizations have to impart various training methods depending on their requirements. For this purpose, security awareness training is included by organizations. Security awareness training uses 3 methods of training, and they are awareness, training, and education. Let us discuss awareness. The main objective of awareness programs is to focus attention of employees on security. Through this method, the organizations can inform employees about their roles and expectations surrounding their roles in the observance of information security requirements. Let us discuss training. The objective of training is to produce relevant and needed security skills and competency. The main advantages of using training as the method are: training also helps to provide guidance surrounding the performance of particular security or risk management functions. It provides information on the security and risk management functions. Let us discuss education. The main objective of education is to integrate all the security skills as well as competencies into a common body of knowledge, adding a multidisciplinary study of concepts, issues, and principles. The major advantage of this method of training is that the educated employees can aid the organization in fulfilling security program objectives. We will discuss the implementation of the security awareness training in the following screen. For an organization to achieve the desired results of its security program, it must communicate the what, how, and why of security to its employees. The table represents the steps to develop and implement a good security awareness training program. The steps to develop and implement a good security awareness training program are: identify training requirements within the organization, example, users, contracts, customers, legal, etc. Establish training objectives such as indoctrinate system users, specify security requirements, effectively relay information security requirements, and motivate personnel to comply with the requirements. Set training program goals such as people must be aware of risks, compliance is needed for effective information protection, avoid fraud, waste, and abuse. Education has the long-term impact timeframe, whereas training has intermediate and awareness has very short-term impact. Let us continue to the next topic, managing security function. In this topic, we will discuss the importance of managing security function. We will also discuss the best practices for managing security function. Security program is an inevitable function of every organization. Hence, managing the security function is vital. The importance of managing security function is given below. Security function helps in the evaluation of the effectiveness of the security program, identify deficiencies, and prioritize the things that require improvement. Through proper collection, analysis, and reporting of the necessary information, managing security function facilitates decision-making, performance improvement, and accountability. Well-organized management of the security function of an organization will result in the effective and efficient implementation of security controls. Efficient management of the security function will ensure that the assets are well protected. Managing the security function ensures proper allocation of budget for security as per the business requirement. Kevin Butler, Security Administrator, received a mail from Elijah Wyatt, Head IT Security, Nutri Worldwide, informing him that he has been selected to undergo training on the latest version of the firewall, which he was handling. Kevin is excited about the training as that would further enhance his skills. Since the security program is an ongoing activity, the management is eager to improve its effectiveness so that the security incidences are maintained at lowest level. Proper budget and resources are allocated to help maintain the security posture of the organization. What is the most important requirement for effectively managing the security function? The support of senior management is the most important requirement for effectively managing the security function. Let us summarize the topics covered in this domain. The organization's security program should be aligned with the organization's goals, mission, and objectives. Information security governance provides strategic direction and ensures security objectives are achieved. Risk management helps an organization ensure that an organization properly identifies, analyzes, and mitigates risk. When choosing the right safeguard to reduce a specific risk, the cost, functionality, and effectiveness must be evaluated and a cost-benefit analysis must be performed. Security policy guides the security program in the organization. Standards, guidelines, baseline, and procedures are required to implement the security program. Security awareness, training, and education help the employees to upgrade their knowledge of security and also help improve the overall security posture of the company. In the next lesson, we will learn about access control in detail.